Okay, so welcome everybody to the Solo DanceTwirl Scoresheet review. Thanks for coming this evening, and I will hand it over to Jenna, who will make our introductions.
Hi everyone, and thank you, Dana. So thanks everyone for jumping on again this evening. Really excited about the information that Wendy and Sarah have to share with you tonight. So we will be discussing the new Solo DanceTwirl Scoresheet revisions. This is a big project that Wendy and Sarah took on and have been working on over the past year. Marina and myself reviewed the new revisions and the education committee. So it's really a great project that I think is going to be a good judging tool for us to use in this upcoming season. So I am going to have Wendy and Sarah take this away. And as always, if you have any questions following this webinar, be sure to send me an email. But thanks again to Wendy and Sarah for taking on this project. So they have a lot of really great information to share with you tonight. So I'll let you ladies take it away, and then I'll jump back on at the end if anyone has any questions for me.
Great, thank you very much, Jenna. So I'll start this evening, and then Wendy is going to do a little bit of a play the game. So before we get started, I just want to make sure everyone has access to the score sheets. So if you haven't got them downloaded or printed off, before we do the play the game, go to the CBTF website, and on the competition score sheet CD under individual events, you'll find a link to the new score sheet, and it's fillable on PDF. So you can do it on your computer, or you can print it off and write it as we would traditionally. So welcome to the Solo DanceTwirl Scoresheet review. This is our 2020 update. So our process for this was that at the fall technical meeting in 2019, we were assigned to take on the review of the Solo DanceTwirl score sheet. And the purpose was to update the Solo DanceTwirl score sheet to incorporate terminology from artistic twirl. So we utilized existing documentation to update, including the current score sheet, the artistic twirl event capsule, the M2 manual, the Solo DanceTwirl event focus, and some other CBTF score sheets as well. And so ultimately, we're trying to address the question, is there a difference between Solo DanceTwirl and artistic twirl? To which the answer for CBTF is no. From the fall technical meeting when this was originally born, we said that dance is movement and movement is dance. So we did our best to blend the two events together for our purposes. So we developed 3 tools to help along with our judging. Firstly, we revised the score sheet, and it's now fillable on the CBTF website. We also created a detailed explanation of all of our changes as well as the new updates. And we also made a quick reference guide, which is a single page and has 3 to 4 things to look for in each caption to aid judges and coaches when they're looking at and evaluating solo dance twirls. So as a quick overview, this is the score sheet, and we have 5 captions: choreography, dance, baton, execution, and performance. We renamed dance from dance variety difficulty from the old score sheet, and baton was originally named twirl variety difficulty, but the other 3 remain the same. Our quick reference guide, here's just a photo of it, but you also received a copy in your email for this webinar. So here are updates to each caption. Firstly, in choreography, we have quality of choreography, and this came from the artistic twirl event capsule. So they say, would the body be able to display the program without the baton and vice versa? So it's the arrangements of the parts. It's determining the complexity and separately evaluating the parts of the trick or series, and then analyzing how the parts are arranged. The factors of this relationship also affect the degree of demand placed upon the athlete. It assesses composition, utilization of time, and continuity. Interpretation of musical style came from the DanceTwirl team under coordination of dance and twirl. And this assesses the use of musical phrases and accents, reflects that musicality goes beyond counting 1 to 8. And this is a distinguishing factor between medley and solo dance. Rhythm and timing came from DanceTwirl team in the dance execution. It now encompasses the use of rhythm and musical phrases, as well as the change of pace. Visual aural agreement comes also from the DanceTwirl team under general effect. We're asking ourselves what the audience visually observes. Is it matching with the music that they're hearing? The design concepts of staging, body design, and space harmony are also utilized to create visual aural agreement. Logical design came from the Artistic Twirl event capsule, and this concerns the relationship of the parts to each other and to the whole. It deals with the theme consistency, continuity of ideas, visual and aural agreement, and proper placement of elements in time and space, coordination of all elements, and the absence of tokenism. The balance of material also came from the Artistic Twirl event capsule, the importance of using both sides of the body, and repetition. Check for the same types of moves in excess. For example, one type of stationary or traveling complex move, its general use of both hands and handling, releasing and catching, and we'd like to see a variety of body and baton ingredients within the modes. And this is also a good place to identify the twirler who doesn't dance and the dancer who doesn't twirl, because often it's hard to find a way to recognize that. Also note, we removed pacing and staging from this caption because it follows in under logic and logical design. So what are your big look-fors? Again, with choreography, it's assessing the what. So what is the athlete doing in relation to the music? Does the choreography make sense from start to middle to end? And is this a balanced package given the athlete's abilities? So think to yourself again, am I watching a twirler who doesn't dance or a dancer who doesn't twirl? Is the twirling and dancing blended and balanced? Our next caption is dance. And so our points under this are variety of dance and combination. This came from the DanceTwirl team dance variety, as well as the Artistic Twirl event capsule. So this includes leaps, footwork, balance, turns, and spins, and making sure that we're utilizing the full body, including head, arms, core, legs, and feet. And then also includes use of levels. So this is a new focus point. The athlete utilizes high, medium, and low levels, and this can include floor work. This can also include balance of the use of levels. For example, if the athlete overuses floor work or doesn't use it at all. We also have maintenance of style, which is adapted from the DanceTwirl team coordination of dance and twirl. And we have intricacy, and this is again a new focus point, how the elements are put together, the density of the steps, the density of the risk, and the degree of demand. In dance, we're looking for what again. It's a what caption. What dance steps and body work does the athlete do? Is there a variety of appropriate movements, keeping in mind the athlete's abilities and age? Does the body work contribute to the style? And what is the demand and density of the dance and body work given the level of the athlete? Our next caption is baton. And under baton, we have variety of elements completed. And this comes from the DanceTwirl team twirl and twirl team basic twirling modes. So we have aerials, which includes releases and receptions, and stationary and travel complex, rolls, contact and connecting material, and use of pattern and planes. Note that Solo DanceTwirl as an event does not require all three modes. However, Artistic Twirl as an event at the IBTF and WBTF level does require a balance of the three modes. Intricacy as well is a new focus point. How are the elements put together? This is the density of the steps, the density of the risk, and the degree of demand. For baton, our look-fors, this is our last what caption. What twirling skills does the athlete display? Does the athlete display a reasonable variety of aerials, rolls, and contact? Does that athlete make use of different patterns and planes? And what is the demand and density of the twirling given the level of the athlete? Again, we're not going to be expecting twirling nonstop from start to finish for a BN level athlete, for instance. Our next caption is execution, and this includes the skills required to execute the moves. This came from the old Solo DanceTwirl Scoresheet under dance variety and difficulty. This also includes the maintenance of technique while blending, and so that would include, are they able to keep up the standard that we expect as CBTF while still adapting to the difficulty created through dancing while twirling. And this also includes blending of the baton and body with the music. And this was moved from the choreography caption of the old Solo DanceTwirl. The old Solo DanceTwirl said synchronization, but blending is a more modern term and a more descriptive term to what our expectations are. Also, we have body and baton, which I'll talk about a little bit more on the next slide. So under body, we have control and clarity, and these are coming straight from our DanceTwirl team execution, as well as medley technique. So control and clarity, strength and balance, flexibility, amplitude and elevation, extension, feet, legs, and arms, turnout or parallel, posture, as well as correctness of technique. And that's one to make sure that we're keeping note of as well. These terms we see on lots of score sheets, so it's good to have some consistency. And under execution of baton, again, this comes from Solo as well as DanceTwirl team, Twirl team, and Solo DanceTwirl event focus. We look for control, smoothness, flow and continuity, general handling, consistency and control, and rate of revolution, dexterity and clarity, as well as correctness of technique. Our next caption, our execution look-fors. This is our first how caption. So how does the athlete twirl and dance? Are the twirling skills proficient and technically correct? Are the dance skills and body work proficient and technically correct? And how is the athlete managing the demands of the music with the demands of correct execution of body and baton? Our next caption is performance. And I'd like to remind everyone that this is not just about eye contact and smiling. So Wendy and I worked hard to make sure that this performance caption had some meat that you could really dig into and identify areas where athletes are excelling or needing some extra help. So the first one is confidence and eye contact. And this comes from the old Solo DanceTwirl Scoresheet, as well as the medley performance skills. The next one is expression within style. So this is another new judging focus, using the body and the baton expressively relative to the emotion and or the mood that the athlete is trying to create. So this focus adapts the artistic twirl concept and falls under artistic expression. And this is specifically geared toward higher level athletes likely performing an artistic twirl as a CBTF solo dance. This one also looks at excellence of performance, and this comes from the old Solo DanceTwirl Scoresheet. This we describe as the proficiency of the whole package. We always look for the whole package, body, baton, musicality, everything that brings that performance together. The next one is entertainment value, and this comes from DanceTwirl team in general effect and also the old Solo DanceTwirl. Recovery skills comes from the artistic twirl event capsule, and this is recovery from errors and maintaining flow and continuity. So this could also be interpreted to be baton errors, body errors, or musical errors. It's not just strictly relating to drops. We also have professionalism, and this one comes from the artistic twirl event capsule. And it's described as the aura of the performer, the on stage, the maturity of the athlete as a performer. It's the intangible elements which separate the skilled professional from the amateurs. A combination of training, discipline, pride, and a total understanding of the responsibilities of the performance given the athlete's abilities and levels. So the quality which enables the performer to handle all situations, meet all emergencies, and display calm and proud control. Again, we're keeping this in mind based on the skill level and age of the athlete for what our maturity expectations are. This also can include appearance here. Are they well groomed, appropriately costumed? Do they have a clean baton? Do they have appropriate footwear? So our look fors under performance, this is our second how caption. How does the athlete perform? Do they emote and express within the style and to the music? Does the athlete deliver a seamless performance? How does the athlete handle miscues? Is the athlete entertaining and performing rather than just practicing and going through the steps? Lastly, our other update was the update to our penalty box. We removed quadrant failure because we feel it's assessed in floor pattern, and floor pattern falls into the choreography caption. So we have it under there under logical design. It includes space usage to include the space around the body of the athlete. So we can think about the floor as the horizontal place within the confines of the floor or the lane. We can think about the height from floor to ceiling, as well as the width, depth, and diagonal dimensions. So the use of different levels, angles, etc. is important. All movement in space should have a purpose and a direction determined by the momentum and flow of the music. For instance, your body would look larger close up, but smaller further away. So in closed up, tight, tense moves, utilizing small amounts of space, tension should be heard and felt within the music. But if you have open, wide moves, using more space with more bursts to the music. So this includes staging, like proper placement of the performer with respect to both position and time, so that the maximum effect is achieved by controlling the mind and the eye of the viewer. When we had quadrant failure, we felt that it was restrictive in that it could cause athletes to want to travel from left to right, forward and back for the sake of not getting quadrant failure, rather than the logic of the choreography and the design. So before we go any further, are there any questions? And then if there's not, we'll move on to our first Play the Game with Wendy. So I've got the chat box open, or you can unmute yourself if you have questions. Did you say that solo dance does not require all three moves? Okay, thank you, Jen. Under the Solo DanceTwirl event, it doesn't require a balance of all three modes. No. Should you include roles if it makes sense in the choreography? Yes. Aerials, I think everyone includes in their choreography, and connecting material and contact. But if an athlete doesn't do vertical and horizontal roles, it's not to be penalized, for instance. Any other questions?
All right, what we're doing right now is reviewing two different athlete performances. We've picked a younger athlete using the traditional solo dance twirl music and an older athlete using the artistic twirl music. Different ages, different ability levels. And looking first at this score sheet, it's a little daunting as a judge because there are many captions, lots of wording, and people are going to think, oh, well, I just want to be able to write what I want in the caption. I don't want to have to look at all this theory. But we changed the score sheet to include all of this information so that as judges, we could utilize the score sheet better when we are giving our feedback. We should be using circles and checks to identify what has value in the routine and what has need for development. And what we've done today is that you will watch the performances, and you should each have a copy of your Solo DanceTwirl score sheet, whether that's online or in front of you, and take a minute and circle and check what you think that performance, your outcome from that performance, based on circles and checks, and put in some comments as well. But we're going to review all of that after we're done. And if we have time, we may look at that performance a second time once we have done all of our reviews, because it gets overwhelming, especially when judges are taking different webinars all the time on how to improve without actually having time to judge and put it into practice. It'd be good to actually be able to do that second review. Okay. everyone another 1 minute to finish up. All right, everyone, let's begin the analysis. We're going to go through each caption and we'll discuss the circles and checks and the review of it. After we're all done, then we'll open it up for comments and input from everyone else. Under choreography, we didn't check anything because we found a number of weaknesses in the design of the routine. So therefore we circled balance of material, interpretation of musical style, and logical design. So overall, the review we had is the routine is designed more like a traveling solo than a true solo dance twirl. This is an example of a twirler who doesn't dance, especially in the first half of the program. The routine appears to be overwritten for the twirling level of the athlete and is not designed to blend baton and dance except on the most basic level. She had good floor coverage. Just like Sarah said, she hit all of her quadrants. The choreographer made sure she traveled. However, it wasn't necessarily logical to do so. It was traveling for the sake of traveling rather than because of the logic or the choreography required it. Her program was rhythmically correct, using the metronome for her routine or a paced routine, and she's starting to develop a sense of music. She did do things like there were positives, she used different levels, but because that analysis of the levels is in logical design, it was still circled because there was more of requirement for enhancement of her logical design than there was credit, I guess. Under the dance caption, we gave her check marks under leaps and footwork. There was a good variety of what she did in those two areas, but the weakness to be circled was utilization of her full body. There was less time she used more of her body to interpret the music through dancing. She had a fair start at body movements, executed on different levels. Most of the baton dance did not fall in combination, as it is isolated or repeats the same skill, like her ponies repeated a couple of times. Under baton, we gave her strength a check mark to aerials. She definitely had a number of aerials with good baton technique. Not all of them were caught, but she did have a variety. She had good demonstration of vertical and horizontal demand, as well as all three modes. The intricacy of the twirling was the highlight of the routine. So we liked the twirling part of her routine, which is why there are no circles in the baton section. Under execution, there was a check mark under general handling and under smoothness. Weaknesses were correctness of technique of body, extension legs, control of baton and body, extension of her feet specifically, and rate of revolution. The athlete performed a lot of difficulty in her routine, but requires more control of her releases, which led to her drops. Attention is needed regarding placement of her body when executing the dance steps to make it more effective. Good start at blending baton and body, especially in the travel complex. Athlete needs to continue to develop blending of baton and body in all other modes, as well as to be coordinated with the music. And her drops were caused by lack of control and not enough revolution. So in execution, we're analyzing how she worked with the music as well as her body and her baton separately. Under the performance caption, we gave a strength to eye contact. She did make an attempt to look at the judge throughout the routine, or as much as she could, with the demand that she was under. And her weaknesses we circled were entertainment value and excellence of performance. Now, her entertainment value was circled due to choreography challenges. She was really, really trying to keep up with the choreography that was given to her. And because of that, she was not able to perform. She was baton focused and lacked almost authentic connection to the audience. And that authentic connection in the audience can happen with a level C solo dance twirl athlete as well as a level A. The demand of the routine didn't allow for a relaxed performance, which is why she was also circled under excellence of performance. Okay, so those were our notes on it. I'm sure there are many more. And if anyone would like to take their mute off and give me their opinion or any questions they had on our analysis, I'm happy to hear. We can all learn from each other.
Wendy, I have a comment. As I was filling out my score sheet, I was under the dance category at the time and wanted to make a comment about her hips being not turned out properly, and which is where a lot of her execution of technique in her dance was a problem. It all stemmed from her hips in that turnout piece. But I noticed there's nothing about turnout until you get down to the execution. So I was just curious if there was a reason there wasn't any turnout per se in the dance section to be able to circle that.
The dance section in itself is truly the what. What is the content of her dance? And under the how is analyzed under execution, or could also fall under performance, because if that execution or that turnout of her hip caused her any other performance issues like timing, musicality, then that would be related there. There's actually a lot of stuff under execution.
But don't forget too that it can be paralleled.
Excuse me?
It doesn't have to be turned out.
Does it have to be turned out? No. Isn't
No.
there a turnout / parallel? Is that not somewhere in the
Yes.
score sheet?
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like the ponies don't have to be turned out at all. She does need to stretch her feet. But I think it's just going to take more practice with the score sheet to find everything. Because the first thing I wrote down up in choreography was tokenism throughout. Then as you went through each category, I see that was covered in other ways without having it up there in choreography. So I think, and this is the first time I've actually looked at a routine and put it on the paper. So I think they just need to be more familiar with where everything is, because I think it's there in a professional way. And for my assessment of the little girl, I think you hit all her strengths and weaknesses, although I would not have given her a check for smoothness in Baton. But because of the lack of revolution, there really wasn't a flow and a connection, but I realized she was young. So perhaps, like you said, overwritten. I was going to say material beyond her level. So we were saying the same thing, but I like these terms better, actually. So I think it covers everything. It's just that it is rearranged. So we have to forget how it used to be and look at how it is, and we'll find everything that we need, I think. But it's going to take a little bit of practice. That's just my feeling.
Yeah.
One point we talked about yesterday in our meeting, or the other day, is that the word musicality isn't on there specifically anymore as it used to be. And I said to Sarah, how do we analyze whether she's ahead or behind the music, right? And
that's the other thing I was wondering about, because you said something about her developing musicality. I didn't think it was there at all. Like I didn't see what I was hearing musically or see her even aware, but maybe that was because of her age.
I think that at the beginning, and the point we have is it's rhythmically correct. she's doing the routine when started with the music and on time with it. It just that because the logic wasn't there, and for that reason, so when we're looking at musicality, we look at is the problem the routine, or is it perhaps the performance of the routine? So it goes into our what and how. So if it's what she did in the how it's what the choreographical design of the routine is, you would mention the musicality in the choreography section at the front, at the top, because we're talking about it not being written musically. If you can tell when you're judging, the athlete becomes a little bit ahead or behind the music, and we're thinking, where do we analyze that piece of it not remaining to be musical? It then falls under either the execution, blending the baton and body with music, or else it moves down into performance of excellence of performance, or based on whether or not she has had challenges of recoveries, it could fall under recovery skills. Because what we tended to do was the analysis of musicality needs to move more into performance.
Right. Can I answer that question about the less baton focused and more focused on the blending? See, I don't think that's the little girl's fault. I think that's totally up in the choreography, that's where they have to create something that allows and at her age, allows her to blend it. So she was so focused on the tricks, the music ended up being background music, and she had some pretty nice little tricks. Like she tried an illusion, but she threw it way out. Mm-hmm. Like that's what I meant when I said it was tokenism, and I think that's why what you have to do to get them to blend. Don't make the baton and the dance so difficult that they can't cope with either.
That's correct, and that's why we invited coaches to this session as well as judges. Sarah had a great comment when she said, why handing the assignment if you don't know what you're being marked on? So if you are a coach who doesn't judge, you want to design the Solo DanceTwirl routine almost, I'll say, to fit the new score sheet so that you can then be evaluated, then you'll know how you're being evaluated and why.
See, I think just in general, coaches perhaps tend to be trick oriented because that's the baton side of it.
Right.
So there's the other piece to this event that has to be equally developed. So you can't put high level baton tricks and high level dance on that level of a student. So we have to not rush at the beginning is what I'm saying.
Right, that's right. There's a question from Elena. I know we're focusing on the score sheet, but what suggestions would you have to get the athlete to be less baton focused and more focused on the blending? I guess the initial comment I have is less is more. Tone down the level of the baton in order to allow them to do baton and dance. Yet for a lower level athlete, there will be segmented baton and dance. The expectation we always have is that you're consistently blending baton and body from beginning to end. That's very challenging, especially for lower level athletes. So we're not asking for that to be done all the time, but we'd like to refocus the judge's evaluation and the coach's choreography to blend body and baton as much as it can. And perhaps it's not just about the tricks. Sarah, do you have any other comments about that?
No, I think you and Maureen captured that pretty well. Jumping back to the score sheet a little bit, one thing Wendy and I tried to do was give an option for the cause of the problems. I think the old score sheet was a really effective tool at identifying the symptom, but we're looking specifically at the cause of what the problems are. So that's jumping back to the musicality. Musicality is the symptom. They're out of time with the music or it doesn't make sense, but what caused that dysfunction or the concern? Was it the choreography? Was it instantaneous to the performance, etc.? And so I think that also falls under the overwriting. When we talk about overwriting a performance, that means that's really the root of the cause of a bunch of things. When the athlete isn't musical, they're dancing or twirling, everything needs to come down so that it's a balanced performance within the athlete's skill level.
think the score sheet gives the judge an easy tool or a quick tool or a useful tool to give a critique.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, it's going to give the coaches something to work with to improve as they go along, rather than getting a score and you still don't know why this justifies the score, I think.
Right.
I'm hoping that's how it turns out.
And really, that's the goal of this seminar. If we train the judges what all the bullet points of the score sheet really mean, and honestly, that information was in a 250-page manual that we tended not to take around with us when we judged. Therefore, that quick summary bullet sheet that Sarah made was a really good way that us as judges will have that refresh before we judge of what is truly covered under every caption. But we do need to move on to athlete number 2.
Hello?
Do you have a question, Ron? Sorry, before we move on.
Yeah, I don't have the last Solo DanceTwirl sheet with you. I'm sorry, but I was with you when we were working on this a while ago, and I had that one on, and I just have a couple things to say. On the other one, we were saying a lot of body and dance work together, rather than just dance separate in a body. Does it say there anywhere about more of a blending? There is a blending of baton and body with music, yes, on one on the execution. But I thought we put it up on the dance and baton levels too. And then the other thing we said in the variety on the baton, it talks about the aerials with different releases and receptions, stationary, travel complex, and rolls. And we just said now it's not need to have the rolls, but you would think when the coaches look at this, they're going to think that all their athletes have to have all those things. So we have to make sure, like for instance, a young child going maybe would not be able to do a travel complex, or the rolls would be very simple, but I don't know, like I just want to make sure when the coaches see this score sheet that we don't have to have them all doing that.
Yeah, I agree with you, Ron, 100%. And Sarah did mention that earlier when she reviewed the score sheet and how it is not the requirement of the Solo DanceTwirl concept to have all 3 modes, especially equally for certain. But we need to recognize the fact that they are there, and it gives us having it on the score sheet gives us an avenue to bring value to them too. If they do some spectacular travel complex, we'd like to have a place just to a circle and check as well. But good points.
Okay.
Okay, moving on, we'll go, Sarah put the link to athlete number 2 in the chat box.
Wendy, just before you go on.
Yeah.
I just want to clarify, and I don't want people walking away from this webinar saying you don't have to have all 3 modes in solo dance. That's not what Sarah said. Sarah said you don't have to have an equal balance of all 3 modes. Okay, so I don't want people stepping away from this webinar and saying I don't have to have rolls in my solo dance. That's not what she said. Okay, she said you don't have to have an equal balance of all 3 modes. Just want to make that clear.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dana. There's one comment from Deirdre, and then we do have to scoot on so that we can get you out of here in our 1-hour time limit. She says, it sounds like this athlete should not be in this event. However, she did use some of the pre-dance and there was progression to it. I understand it was trick heavy, but she did have potential because this is our growth. Not everybody can have dance classes and wants to do this event for fun. Not everyone wants to be a Canadian champion. I think that's important to remember, Deirdre. That's a good point to bring up. Not everyone is taking dance classes. So as we evaluate it, consider the skill level of the athlete, both in their dance and their twirl. And coaches should remember, especially if you have athletes who are training specifically just at Baton and aren't taking dance classes, to incorporate, if you're going to do solo dance and medley and other movement-based events, to incorporate some of those basic dance moves and pre-dance moves as you write the program. Okay, I think we'll move on and then we can chat about Jen's comment after. So here's the link for the next one. It's in the chat box.
time, we'll do this one a little quicker, and I'll give you just another minute to finish your score sheets. All right, let's start reviewing athlete number 2 with choreography. Okay. In choreography, we checked balance of material, and the weakness was interpretation of musical style. We said beautiful start to the routine, but after a few counts of 8, the athlete starts into a solo type section. Excellent interpretation of the soft parts of the music, but often goes into twirler mode and seems to completely ignore the change in the drum section with a musicality issue at the end. The excitement of the routine was centered around her aerials, and thus the ending fell a little flat when she held her baton for the last few counts of 8. It kind of left you wondering what was missed. Under dance, we had a check mark under variety of leaps and a weakness under intricacy. The athlete does beautiful isolated moments of dance and mostly maintains her style throughout when she is dancing, but this fades when she is twirling. And the double attitude turn is a memorable feature of the routine. So it's one of those things that you would, as a judge, remember, oh yeah, that great double turn would be something you need to remember for a long time. Under baton, we checked marked aerials, rolls, and contact material. Elements performed are predominantly right hand, but they were vertical and horizontal, right hand and vertical. Horizontal pattern was lacking, but she did show variety of aerials, rolls, and contact material. And we noted there was excellent variety displayed within the vertical material. Execution, athlete displayed, control at the strengths was her control, body extension, posture, smoothness, general handling. She was lovely to watch and a beautiful dancer. Weaknesses, maintenance of style and technique when blending and dexterity. The athlete displayed challenges to maintenance of style and technique when blending, which was evident as the routine progressed. She phased in and out of her music the second half of the program. For example, her elbow section was not musical. Athlete displayed elements in which she was either a dancer or a twirler and flipped between the two, but rarely was both at the same time. Under performance, we gave strengths to eye contact, and the weakness was expression within style. Now, under performance, we noted the grace and lightness shown to her by her in the opening was lovely. The athlete needs to maintain the aura she creates in the beginning throughout the routine, and this is an area for her to develop as she continues to perform. And her twirling and dancing skills are stronger than her performance skills. She is an excellent, technically proficient dancer and twirler, but putting it together in a package of her performance skills weren't as strong as they could be. All right, that is kind of our summary and technically the end of our session. So time for a couple of comments or questions before we wrap it up would be great.
Wendy, just a question about scoring of those two athletes. Did you had any thoughts in regards to what ranges they would possibly fall in?
We did. We just chatted about it quickly, Sarah and I did, because we didn't want to focus on scores. But the first athlete, we had her scored in the low 3s, and this athlete was maybe low 6s.
I know in judging, we talk a lot about the balance of weighing the negatives and the positives. And I think that's really hard in this type of event. And I think that this score sheet will help you, make that determination of how much do you weigh on the negative or the positive. So I think it's just interested to see how it impact the score overall, if it's, quite a big impact or quite a small impact. Obviously, with solo dance having a specific event focus, I think that it has a big impact on the score, whether or not the routine is, logical to the event, the choreography and the execution. So that was very well done. Thank you, guys both.
By the way, Jen Marin had a couple of notes. She talked about the wording of the terminology. A twirler who doesn't dance, a dancer does not twirl, was very negative. Perhaps change to the athlete's strengths to dance, or the athlete's strength is baton. Most kids fall somewhere in between. That's a good note. Certainly put that into review, Jen. A really good comment. And she also said, I'd love the Reader's Digest version of the specific difference between solo dance and artistic with the bullet points. Yes, I think so too. Anyone have any other comments on the last performance or in general?
I have one general comment. I was trying to type it up, but I was afraid you're going to run out of time. It's true that not everybody, when they start out, has a goal to be a national champion, but they do love it. And you never know what's going to turn a twirler and motivate them to do better. So it's so important that what they do at the beginning is correct and that they're capable of it. And we just shouldn't assume that, well, this is all right because they're not going to be a world champion anyway. We actually do not know when a little girl walks in your studio where they're going to end up after 6 years, 10 years of training. They may take 1 year and drop out. They may take 2 years and be very average, then all of a sudden get very enthused. So our job is to make sure that everything they're learning will allow them to progress and not to build in any mistakes that'll hinder their progress when they do make that decision to be a little more active. So I think that's the coach's big responsibility. And that I totally agree that everyone you teach is not going to be a Canadian champion, but you want everyone you teach to have good technique.
Right. Another point about solo dance, and I'm going to pick on the coaches because I did overhear someone did this in the past, that it's solo DanceTwirl. Just do your freestyle tricks and put it to music, or put your freestyle portions to music. We just want to get that freestyle on the floor. So it's really not about the tricks and trying to get another venue to practice different events. It really is an event in itself that we hope that the judges now will reward what is designed and conceptually correct, and do the analysis properly and have a little bit of a head up as we go into the new season with the Solo DanceTwirl score sheet. Also noting, judges may be judging alone. There may not be clerks. So using this score sheet effectively will give much better input back to the coaches and athletes on their performance. I think we're about out of time. So maybe I'll run it over to you, Jenna, to finish up, or Dana, whoever likes to close off this event.
Sure, I can wrap it up. Once again, just want to thank Wendy and Sarah. I think it's really great that we are opening up more channels for coaches and judges to get together and talk about, certain new things that are going to be implemented this season. I think it's always great if we can share that knowledge, and really looking forward to all the webinars that we have coming up in the next couple of weeks. So again, we'll see you next Sunday. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to myself. And if I can't answer those questions, then I can reach out to Wendy and Sarah to get those answers. But thanks again, everyone, for coming. And if you have anyone in your club that wasn't able to attend that wanted to, the recording will be uploaded to the CBTF website in due time.